Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, my thanks to Ian and the rest of the team who had invited me to do a presentation here. I'll try to stick to my 5 minutes, Ian. Just a bit of background about myself. As indicated, my name is Duncan. I'm at the University of Pretoria. A bit of the history of the University of Pretoria. The university was established in 1908, which does not make it a very old university in international terms, but in the South African context, it's a fairly established university with about 60,000 students. Well, to start off with the presentation, and now I need to navigate my, voila. Firstly, I mean, one acknowledges, or most people would acknowledge, is given the richness of the diversity of its population, that it would be inevitable that we would have a wealth of tangible heritage resources. And indeed, if one goes through the many museums in South Africa, one would realize the extent of the wealth of tangible cultural heritage resources. But I mean, of late, we've become acutely aware of how ephemeral or how changeable these resources are, how easy it would be for them to be damaged and then lost to posterity. And some of the risks that we have identified in recent years include the heightened environmental risks to which these resources are exposed, such, for example, the recent abnormally high summer temperatures and humidity levels, floods, and pest infestations, partly as a result of the El Nino phenomenon. In fact, over the last year, we've had the hottest summer in living memory. I don't think we've had a hottest summer recorded prior to this, and this obviously has an impact on the objects in museums and other places where artifacts are kept. And of course, in South Africa also, increasingly we're seeing threats from other terrains, such as, for argument's sake, the socio-political environment, with the decreasing amounts of funds available to preserve what we have in terms of cultural heritage resources. Last year, or at the beginning of this year, must have read about an incident at the University of Cape Town, which I suppose indicates and illustrates to us, I mean, how tenure is very frequent. The total body of work we have, or the integrity of that body of work, if we do not commit ourselves to its conservation and preservation. At the moment, we have what is called a large high level of decolonization activism in South Africa, and so you most probably have read about the anti-Rhodes statue, and where student activists at most universities had militated for some of these statues to be taken down. Now, while one can understand why in many cases students would be opposed to symbols of oppression being so prominently placed on universities, one of the mishaps of the last few months is, in fact, that when students try to eliminate or take away those what they refer to as symbols of oppression, they inadvertently also included while they were destroying some of these artifacts, some very valuable pieces of art. And I suppose that for us underlines the importance of what my presentation is about. Perhaps I should have said at the outset that part of what I'm presenting here is in fact the reasons for why we are establishing what we call a master's degree in art conservation. So some of the issues that I've raised are some of the motivating factors for establishing this project. Another motivating factor, sorry I've not moved on. Okay, I've missed out one or two slides, my apologies. Another motivating factor is the absence of any comprehensive accredited training programs in tangible cultural heritage conservation. Now, a positive factor was a recent donation that the university had received from a benefactor to establish an art museum. It will be called the Javits UP Art Museum. I'll move to that slide. This facility, now obviously we're very excited by this possibility. Some of the facilities that will be included in this art museum is an exhibition space for part of the primary donor's large collection, art collection. It will have an exhibition space for the university's extensive collections. The university has several large collections. It will also include a student gallery, and additional conservation facilities. And of course, it will have an exhibition space for the Mapungubwe collection, one of the most significant heritage collections in South Africa. The Mapungubwe collection, I'm showing you a few images from that collection, comes from the Mapungubwe site, a site that is supposed to, is acknowledged as being one of the first kingdoms in South Africa. And so we have a number of interesting artifacts, and you must have read about those already, such as the golden rhinoceros, this golden ceremonial bowl, etc. The university has, since 1932, been a custodian of this collection. And with the establishment of the University of Pretoria Javits Centre, we are hoping to place this collection in the centre so it's more accessible to a broader group of people than is currently the case. Of course, the university acknowledges that it is merely a custodian of this collection, and that the collection belongs to the country as a whole. At the moment, it is located on the university, but given how access to universities are regulated, not many people can see it. With the establishment of the Javits UP facility, of course, many more people would be able to see it. Then, after we had received the donation from Javits to establish this facility, we immediately thought that it might be a good idea for the university to establish some conservation facility to look after the university's art collections, the various art collections, and potentially also to train a few students in art conservation. We had approached a number of funders to fund this initiative. Fortunately for us, on speaking to the Mellon Foundation, it was suggested that just given the dearth of training opportunities for people to acquire the skills in art conservation, Mellon suggested, why don't we have a workshop where we get people from a multiplicity of institutions at the University of Pretoria, so that we can in fact collectively look at the establishment of a master's, accredited master's program where we can train people in conservation. To my mind, it will be quite an important initiative. At the moment, there is no single university in South Africa that offers training in conservation, and for that, and that's why I started off the presentation with looking at some of the threats, and at this point, trying to prove the point that, or trying to illustrate and demonstrate why it would be so important for any university, in fact, to provide a master's program in conservation. Why specifically a master's program? Why not a certificate? Well, I mean, part of the government requirements are, if you want to call yourself a conservator, then you have to have a university qualification. Our thinking is that the qualification would best serve the needs of the country if it's pitched at the level of a master's program. Following the Mellon Foundation's suggestion that perhaps we have to look at the entire the needs of the entire country, we together with the Mellon Foundation then organized a workshop last year in March. It was, I think it's exactly a year and one bit more than a year ago, where we got a number of experts or specialists in the field of conservation from the UK, from the United States, as well as South Africa. And the workshop was really a think tank about what would a arts conservation or a heritage conservation project look like in the South African context, and what would it look like if it aspires to meet the needs of the South African community. Well, that workshop was fairly successful. I'm not going to go through the detail of what we had discussed at the workshop. Suffice to look at some of the decisions that were taken at the workshop. At the workshop, it was agreed that there was a critical need for tangible cultural heritage conservation in South Africa to be consolidated, strengthened, and promoted. Coincidentally, there are lots of small initiatives in South Africa around conservation, but nothing that is substantially or substantively consolidated. And that the workshop also agreed that the master's program can serve as one of the best strategic vehicles for this endeavor. And lastly, the workshop confirmed the idea that universities should play a leading role in the education and training of conservation professionals in South Africa. Now, in view of the University of Pretoria's existing conservation-related resources, as well as its ongoing collaboration in respect of a range of heritage conservation initiatives with various international partners, it was agreed that the university should take the lead in developing the proposed master's degree program in tangible heritage conservation. Of course, I've got a lot of slides here about what this course would potentially look like. I'm not going to delve into that. Suffice to say that the course is going to aim to offer a holistic training to students at master's level. We are in the process of developing the curriculum. In fact, we're utilizing, thanks to a donation from Mellon, developing a curriculum, and we're developing the curriculum over a period of 1 year, when we will consult with colleagues and partner institutions throughout the country about what the content of this program will be. At the end of this year, we will once again, I suppose, invite some of our colleagues abroad in the US and the UK to look at what we've been able to put together and whether that would be meaningful for the needs of South Africa as well as internationally. I've been personally very grateful for the opportunity to speak about this proposed master's program, because it offers me an opportunity, in fact, to do the following. By the way, let me just run through 1 or 2 slides just to give you an idea of what we have currently by way of conservation facilities at the University of Pretoria. I'm not speaking to any of them, but just to give you an idea of what we have available. The last point I essentially want to make, and I hope I can see it coming up, is basically to extend an invitation to anyone present at this specific session, if you'd want to collaborate with the university. It's a university that's only starting a program in conservation, the first of its kind in South Africa. Then please do feel free to contact me or anyone at the university. Thank you.